Hey friends, welcome to the Johnson City Living Podcast, where we learn about the people, places, events, and flavors that make Johnson City just a lovely place to live. I'm your host, Colin Johnson, with the Colin and Carly Group and Keller Williams Realty. If you're interested in buying or selling a home in the area, or if you're looking at investing in a rental property, give us a call at 423-930-8003, and we will look forward to helping you. Now, let's get to today's episode.
It is a beautiful June day here in Johnson City. I am excited to welcome Mr. David Wiley onto the podcast. He's owner, operator, manager. He does all the jobs, I think, at Serenity Knoll Farm. So I'm like excited to hear about this because Mitch and Marissa have been over there to do a cooking class, and he was telling me how awesome it was. And so I was like, I need to learn more about that. And here you go. Here we are. The Lord has provided you in my space to learn all about Serenity Knoll Farms. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Colin. It's great to be here.
Do you do lots of podcasts, David?
No, but I do a lot of talking. I'll put it that way.
Well, I'll keep us on track, hopefully. So this is Johnson City Living Podcast. You live in the greater Johnson City area. What is your favorite thing about Johnson City or Jonesboro?
Well, it's part and parcel why so many people are moving to this area. And I think about it in terms of 5 factors, and that is low population density, scenic beauty, recreational opportunities, cost of living, and most of all, a friendly people in the area. So, I'm meeting people from all over the country that are moving to the area. I'm at the Jonesboro Farmers Market selling our product every Saturday morning, and a great place for people to kind of put their finger on the pulse of the community is to show up at the farmers market, because you can meet people casually, you can connect up with local farmers and kind of get a feel for what's going on in the area. Do a lot of Q&A if you're curious about places to go and people to see and restaurants to go to. So the farmers market for me is my happy place. So it's a wonderful area. I've traveled all over the world, and I always look forward to coming back to the mountains of East Tennessee.
It is just a great place to live and a great place to come home to, for sure. Tell us about where'd you grow up? Where were you born?
I was actually born in Knoxville. Our family lived in Oak Ridge during World War II, where my father was a claims attorney for Aetna.
Oh, wow.
And he was responsible for the workers' compensation program and defending the insurance company in court during that period of the Oak Ridge National Laboratory in Y-12. And then in 1952, we were transferred to manage the claims office in Memphis, and that's principally where I grew up. I went to 12 years of school at Whitehaven High School, which is in the area where Elvis Presley's house is. It was a great place to grow up, and there's still a very active Facebook group that talks about how wonderful it was as a kid to grow up in that Whitehaven area. And then I went off to college at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville and got a degree in marketing there.
Nice. Go well.
That was back during the Vietnam War years. So there was a lot of strife in the country and controversy over the war, a lot of social change going on during that period that has kind of formed reshaped our culture as we know it today. But I went back after college and taught school for a couple of years. I worked for an advertising agency for 3 years. I worked for a professional soccer team on the major league level for 2 years, doing sales and marketing and game day operations, and that was kind of a thrill of a lifetime. I've done a lot of interesting things, but to actually be on the inside of the professional sports world at the major league level, looking out as opposed to a fan looking in, gave me a whole different perspective on sports.
Which team was it?
It was the Memphis Rogues of the North American Soccer League.
Nice.
This is when the ownership group of the franchise owners in the U.S. were bringing in the European and South American players who were at the pinnacle of their career, they still had enough oomph and they still had enough name recognition to where they could use them as a springboard to sell more tickets to see the stars of old.
Right.
I mean, if you're 15 or 16 years old in the Premier English One division, you're almost an old timer because the stars of the Division One leagues are quite young, mixed up with some of the old timers. But it was a fantastic experience. I played recreational soccer during those years and thought I was pretty good. But gosh, I remember one day going out and getting involved in a practice session, and within 10 minutes, I knew that I could not hold a candle in any sort of way to these professionals.
Right.
I mean, who had
Just
been
a whole different level.
a whole different level.
Yeah.
But it was a great to introduce Memphis to professional soccer. We kind of had modest success. The owner of the club, Avron Fogelman, was also half owner of the Kansas City Royals with Ewing Kaufman.
Yeah.
So I got to hang out with
pretty big time folks.
some big dogs there. And I remember on my birthday, his assistant, Avron Fogelman's assistant, called me up and said, Avron and I are flying to Chicago tonight on his plane. Do you want to go to the game with us? I said, well, heck yeah. So we flew to Midway. There was a limousine there to pick us up, took us out to Comiskey Park, which doesn't exist anymore,
Right.
but that's where the game was, and walked out on the field, and I actually touched home plate, and he turned around to me and said, do you realize who has stood in this spot?
Oh, wow.
And I said, gosh, I hadn't really, I'm so awestruck by just being here. He said, Mickey Mantle, Yogi Berra, Joe DiMaggio, all of these super iconic baseball stars have been where you're standing right now. And I almost went, wow, this is just overwhelming.
Very special. Yeah. That's super cool.
But anyway, I enjoyed that world of professional sports.
How did you come from Memphis all the way to, I was born in Memphis and my family's from there, but we wound up in East Tennessee because of ETSU. How did you come to ETSU or Johnson City?
I'm still trying to figure that out, Colin, but what I tell publicly is that Memphis became a very difficult place for me. I was passionate about Memphis, especially downtown redevelopment with the theater and Beale Street and the riverfront, all the festivals, whether it was blues or barbecue, and I was just gung-ho about Memphis, but it just became a very challenging place for me. And one day I don't know what happened. I kind of sort of raised the flag of surrender and said, I can't fix this.
Right.
There was a lot of, drugs and theft and crime and stuff like that. And I just felt uneasy about living there. And I said, why don't we go somewhere else? So it just so happens that the company that I still work for now, Henry Schein, had an open territory in the Tri-Cities. And so I asked my wife at the time, I said, what do you think about moving to East Tennessee? She said, I am packing my bags now. Let's go. So
she was in agreement with that.
It's hard to imagine that very few people live more than about 50 miles from where they were born. I look back at some of my high school friends, college friends who grew up there. A lot of them worked for Fred Smith at FedEx because the jobs were there, who are still there.
Sure. And you're 100 miles away because you were born in Knoxville, right?
Well, I was born in Knoxville, but
grew up in Memphis.
Grew up in Memphis. Yeah. And so, coming to East Tennessee was like a whole new world. Very different on a lot of levels, I have to admit. And so it ended up that we found, or actually my ex-wife found this place out on Bacon Branch Road where Serenity Knoll Farm exists today.
Yeah.
The day that they were putting the for sale sign up, and the house is an A-frame house that has a pointed deck on the front of it. And if you were standing there it reminds you of that image of the Titanic, where you're kind of standing there looking out over the bow.
Yeah.
And she said, "This is where we're going to live." And I went, "Gosh, how could you not want to live here?"
That's awesome.
So it ended up being 10 acres with the house, and we decided to part company in 2003, and I tried to decide what to do with the rest of my life, to live a healthy life, to live a purposeful life, and do something good for the community.
Yeah, I love it. And that's the genesis of Story,
Well, what really led me down that pathway was a traditional folk dance called contra dance. And I
not
was
short for controversial.
I guess
Could be.
on some
On some
levels,
level,
on,
maybe.
on a social level, there were occasionally some controversies, but it's most of the contra dance communities around the country and around the world, because I've danced in 3 foreign countries, are managed by volunteers who form a nonprofit organization to do what I did, was to build community using a traditional folk dance called contra dance. And so if you look at the construct of the contra dance model, it's something that everyone can do, from children up to seniors. And so the whole premise was to build communities, to have a social event that was alcohol-free, alcohol and smoke-free. It didn't matter what your sexual orientation was, or what you did for a living, or what your political views were. It did not matter. We were all together on the dance floor for one purpose, and that was to connect with each other and move to music. And I started going to contra dances in Asheville and looking at their models and how they built their communities. And I said, we can do this in Jonesboro. So Jonesboro had some really, really historic programs that are well supported by the community, with their storytelling program, with their repertory theater, with their Music on the Square program. And I said, what we need to do is to have a place where people can move to music and connect with each other. So I started a nonprofit, built a website, started hiring bands and callers, and we kicked it off January 6th of 2006, and probably did, in the 15 years that I was involved, we did about 35 events a year. So, quite a few events.
It's a lot. It's almost one a week. Almost.
Well, they were actually 2 a month, first and third Saturday.
Gotcha.
So I was trying to drive traffic to Jonesboro as a part of their tourism program. I wanted people to have a reason, other than those that were already in existence, to come to Jonesboro and experience what Jonesboro was. So it turned out that we had just huge success along the way. And then in 2010, we were able to get a donation of 100 boxes of finished hardwood flooring from the Mulligan Flooring Company.
Oh, yeah.
To put a real dance floor in the visitor center.
Nice.
So if you go in there today and look at that floor was donated by the historic Jonesboro Dance Society, which changed the whole personality of that room.
For sure.
It was kind of, that building is probably 40 years old.
Yeah.
And it had a concrete floor on there, and you just cannot dance on a concrete floor. It just doesn't work. So we upgraded that whole image and the whole feel of the visitor center, and that gave me an opportunity to start programming some high quality events where I would go out nationally and bring bands and callers in. So we started getting people from Florida and New York and California coming in to spend the weekend with us, which I thought was pretty darn exciting.
That is exciting.
To be able to build a program like that had nationwide appeal.
Yeah, that's awesome. What, for our listeners, what would you say you love most about Jonesboro?
Well, I think Jonesboro is a unique town. It's historic. The streetscape still takes you back to the 1800s. It's a place where they have some fun events. And the new marketing director there are doing all kinds of themed events to draw people to town, whether it's bring your puppy dog to town or some of their other themed events. And it's just a real nice, easy place to be.
Mm-hmm.
Their holiday events like Halloween and Christmas and all that are very family focused. The only thing that I would like to see are some better restaurants there. I think that, that's the only thing that I think is lacking in the Jonesboro area.
I would agree. I think that's a great summation of it. I guess a lot of people are like, Johnson City's just down the road. We go there.
And that is a problem for those who are running the town of Jonesboro, is to overcome that
Mindset.
Feeling that most people, when they think about going out to eat, they're going to go away from Jonesboro as opposed to coming to Jonesboro.
Right.
When I moved there, coming from Memphis, especially in the Midtown area of Memphis, there was a bar, restaurant on every corner. And, it's just all I wanted to do was to be able to have a hamburger and a beer after 8 p.m. And I'm not sure that can still.
That's right. That's right. It would be hard down there.
But it's a really well-run town.
Yeah.
Has a lot of upside potential. And we are very much a part of it. Our company, our Serenity Knoll Farm LLC, is a sponsor of several events. The Jonesboro Locally Grown Farm to Table Dinner, and also some of the events that are part of the Farmers Market every Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy and proud to be a sponsor of some of those events.
Yeah. Did you help get the cooperative going? Like that little shop on the end, right as you come in, just in front of the library, the Jonesboro. It's like a store operating. It's like a farmer's market that's year round. It's awesome.
Well, I can tell you about that because I tell people in my dealings at the farmer's market that the town of Jonesboro, I hope this is correct, bought this old Exxon station and donated it to the nonprofit that we are all a part of. It's called Jonesboro Locally Grown. And to create a food hub there that is supported by the network of growers, farmers, packers. So we're very proud that our market is a producer-only market and that all of the items that are for sale at the Boone Street Market, which is what you're referring to.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Is they say locally grown, but they do have a 100-mile radius where someone who's producing a packaged good or value-added product or fresh produce or baked goods or any of the meat products, beef, pork, lamb, that kind of stuff, can sell in that market. And I've been to farmers markets all over the world, and nobody has anything like we have.
It's really cool.
And so it's kind of a little known place there because I talk to people all the time and they go, well, where is that?
Yeah. Yeah.
I describe it to them and they kind of start drooling over the thought of going over there and buying local goods. And they go, well, where is it?
Yeah.
So,
well, talk to me about Serenity Knoll Farms because that's what you're the purveyor of right now, right?
Serenity Knoll Farm, and then the way I introduce people that come to our place is I welcome them to our cooking class, tell them that I live in the house down the hill, and this is my dream come true.
Yeah.
And the dream essentially is to have a place that is both safe and comfortable to gather. When we're in a cooking class, we're talking about gathering around the food table to both prepare and share and enjoy the company of others. It's just one of those things that I'm driven to do, is to be able to be a part of the local food system, both as a vendor for produce and some of the other value-add products we have, but also have a place where people can come and do recreational cooking classes. We may be the only one in the area that has an ongoing program. It's not to say that there's some cooking classes here and there.
Sure.
But our school now is 5 years old. I can remember when Margie Kendall and I started the program in 2018, mostly because of her efforts. because she is a passionate foodie and she had dreamed of having a cooking school. And if she hadn't popped out 2 babies, she'd probably still be working for me. But yes, Serenity Knoll is a unique place. It has a $1 million view from our platform up on top of the hill. We have a 1,500 square foot open air event space and then an 800 square foot commercial kitchen, and then probably about 2 acres in cultivation of seasonal vegetables, fruit, herbs and flowers. And it's just a great place to be.
Sounds like amazing.
When people drive up there for the first time, I hear the word wow a lot. I mean, it's hard for me to be objective, Colin, because I live there. But I'm just telling you, as I welcome people to my home,
Yeah.
and that's the way I describe it. Welcome to my home. Here we are. You know, I want you to have a wonderful experience. And the cooking classes is truly an experience. I've done cooking classes in Barcelona and London and in different places in Italy and all over the United States. And it's all about the experience of possibly expanding your horizons in the culinary world.
Yeah.
We have a variety of different classes that might include Greek or Italian or Indian, or we do a wood-fired pizza class every Thursday night, which is my baby.
That sounds really good. So you are a teacher there as well.
I am, and I am not culinary trained in the classic sense.
Okay.
I never went to an accredited program, but I have had a enormous interest in food, both from the fascination of growing food and also what do you do with it. I can remember back before the internet, when we had different food and wine magazine, Cooking Light. I collected volumes of magazines and looked at recipes all the time. And my motto then and still to this day was, I'm never going to cook the same thing twice.
There you go.
Because there's an endless amount of content out there. I had been subscribing to the New York Times daily blog, and wow, that is just an amazing collection of food suggestions. And I'll see something that I've never even heard of. I said, I think I'm going to give that a try. That sounds interesting.
That's fun.
So those who are interested in trying something different or learning knife skills or how to put all the pieces and parts together from a complex recipe and see the workflow that takes those ingredients to an end point that you can sit down and enjoy a meal together. That's our goal.
I feel like, and you can maybe speak to this, but I feel like cooking and, culinary experiences, like the culinary, like cooking part of it is becoming a lost art. And I love that you're teaching that. And because I want to learn how to do it. And I think Carly, my wife, we need to come do it. Because I think that's something we need to, pass down to the others as well. How do you feel about that? Because it feels like there's such a...
I'll give you an alarming statistic, and I repeat this often. 30% of Americans do not cook a single meal. Okay, and we're talking about millions of people that have become accustomed to someone else preparing their food, either by making a selection in the fast food market or dining out or doing the home deliveries of food that have become popularized. Mm-hmm. And so I think that takes a lot of the joy away from the dining experience, is to have someone else do it for you. But if you have no confidence or no skill in that area to prepare food,
right?
And I'm not saying that it's an easy thing, because there's a lot of moving parts to preparing a meal. But with practice, like anything else, you're going to get better at it. You may have a failure now and then, but,
right?
Part of the fun is exploring that world. I mean, we have to eat to live, and so part of the joys of living is eating or enjoying wine or whatever you like to have with your meal. And so our goal is to kind of give people an opportunity to break free or break through and give it a try. I can give you an example of I've had a few ladies bring their husbands, and I'm going to say, or their partners. I say, dragging them kicking and screaming to one of our classes. But on the way out, in the Columbo style, they would turn around to me and say, "That was fantastic. I can't wait to do that again."
Yeah.
So if people open up to the experience,
Yeah.
we have regular clientele that tune in to all of our classes. We have people that come to.
Are you doing it online? Can people watch online?
We are not currently doing it online.
Okay, so you're saying tune in, meaning just being there.
Tune in by being there.
Yeah.
I would love to be able to have an online presence. I follow 6 or 7 accomplished, established cooking schools around the world, and they all have an online presence. And we would also like to develop a kids cooking program, but it takes time and resources to do that. And right now, with all of what we're challenged to do, it's we can barely keep up with what we have. But those, when you talk about teaching, cooking is a lost art, and that's because our children are not being taught.
Yep.
And I'll give you an example. We have adults that have aspiring young cooks at home.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them could be 8 or 9 or 10 years old who cannot wait to help mom or dad in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
And so they'll call me up and say, "Well, my son, I really, really want him to develop some skills in the kitchen. Could I bring him to your gumbo class?" And I ask the parent 2 things. What is their attitude and what is their aptitude? If they score high on both of those, bring them on. And so, we're not there to babysit your kids. We want them to be engaged as if they were adults.
Yeah.
We want them to learn and to be able to take something away that they can carry into the kitchen at home.
Which would be great.
So if they say they score well on both of those, I said, bring them on.
Bring them on.
Because I've seen some youngsters that were 8 to 12 years old come in and just steal the show.
Oh, I bet.
And that just warms my heart.
We watch these cooking classes or shows on TV, and there's some little guys just wearing it out. I mean,
well, but the Food Network has done an amazing job of marketing their Young Chefs program.
yeah, it's awesome.
And I don't know whether your audience knows that there are 9 high schools in the region that have a culinary arts program. And
I did not know that. That's amazing.
I would probably, if you have an opportunity to bring them into your podcast community, your family, is to find someone who's in charge of that program and come in and talk about it.
Oh,
because
awesome.
I think parents would love to hear more about that, especially if they have a youngster at home who is wanting to move into that culinary career path.
I love that. That's great.
But we've got a great resource in the high school programs here.
We'd love to do that. Talk to us about like your classes. Like if Carly and I wanted to come and take some classes on, do you offer just certain, like you said, knife skills, but then can you like, do you have a whole course that you like, okay, here's where you start, and after a year you're at here and you've taken 20 classes or something like that?
We do not have coursework.
Okay.
Our classes are singularly themed. Our culinary director is Sheridan Nice, who was a restaurateur here in the area for quite a number of years, and she is eminently qualified to teach on many, many subjects.
That's awesome.
And her resume clearly shows that she trained with Julia Child in France on more than one occasion.
Oh,
so
fun.
Sheridan knows food like nobody else.
Yeah,
and she
that's
has
amazing.
a very gentle style of teaching. Her attendees at her class just love being in the kitchen with her.
Yeah.
She tries to keep me in line, which I'm not sure
It's possible.
Might take more than one. But no, our classes are singularly focused. There are online classes, and some. I was looking at one today where they had a 6-week course where you could come once a week for 6 weeks, and you were, progressively moving down the line of both skill and complexity of the class.
That's cool.
We're not in a position to do that right now.
Right, yeah.
Maybe someday. But
What are some of the types of classes that you do offer? Like somebody like to
well,
tell us about the different topics that you guys have taught.
we have a variety of different instructors. One of our chefs is Carla Grimaldi, who is a career professional chef. Her and her husband moved here from New York. She was an executive chef in Manhattan for 30 years.
Holy smokes.
She is Greek, married to an Italian, so we have a Greek asset on our team.
That's awesome.
One of her classes, although is not Greek by any stretch, but it sells out every time, and that's her steak night date night.
Oh,
So you come in and you do a pan-seared ribeye with herbed butter,
yeah.
roasted asparagus, roasted potatoes with Parmesan cheese, and chocolate mousse. It sells out every time.
Every time. That's what I'm having tonight.
And what that
Except for the
tells
chocolate
us
mousse,
is
maybe.
that there's a lot of meat eaters in our region,
We do like our
but
meat.
yet people are looking for that date night experience.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was joking that I could do a mac and cheese date night and it would sell out.
It would sell out for sure. You
But
could do
we
hot
do-
dog date night.
We do Indian classes. Sheridan does a beautiful Indian Greek street food, Indian street food. We have a husband and wife team that come in and do Asian dumplings, which sells out every time. We have another chef who moved here from California named Kat McNamara. All of her classes seem to sell out. So it's a variety of different things. We're trying to offer something for everybody or something for anybody, for that matter. I teach donuts and churros about
Ooh,
once a quarter,
donuts.
which is
Yum.
a fun class. And I have a class coming up next week on the 14th, which is a laminated pasta class.
Ooh,
So
interesting.
that will be fun.
Yeah, that's fun. Where did you learn or where did you have an affinity for cooking? Where'd that come from? Did your mom or dad, were they a chef?
My mother and father cooked a lot, and we kind of lived the principle that if you didn't have what was on the recipe, you could make do with whatever was in your pantry.
Yeah.
So, but I do understand the lore in my family talks about my grandfather. My parents were native New Yorkers, so I am told that my grandfather owned a very elegant restaurant in the New York City area. And I don't know whether you're familiar with the John H. Macy Company, but the Macy family.
Yeah.
And their rivals in New York were the Gimbles.
Yeah.
And story has it that the Macy's and Gimbles would come and eat at his restaurant, not on the same night, of course,
Yeah.
but of course, so many businesses were completely wiped out during the Depression years in the late 20s.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happened. But there's food in my family. And
That's cool.
I don't know where it came from for me. When I was young, I couldn't wait to start a garden. And then, like I said, I was a bachelor for many years, and my motto was, if I don't cook, I don't eat, and I like to eat. So
There you go. I like it.
I think it's something, like you said, is a lost art, that people are curious about things.
A little fearful too, I think. Like some people are like, well, I'm gonna screw it up. It's not gonna taste great. I'm gonna waste money, waste time. It's a lot easier to just go to Pal's.
There is a fear. There's a fear factor there.
Yeah.
And that does keep a lot of people from giving it a good old try. But
Yeah.
it's not to say that in the course of my cooking life that I didn't mess up something here or there. But it's fun. It's a interesting part of life. If you travel the world, and if you go to Turkey or to Greece or to Spain or Italy or the British Isles, you'll find that their food choices are very different. They're very interesting. They're very historic. And it's always nice to kind of be in that space with different ethnic groups and explore different foods. I'm not a big fan of Indian food. It's just so incredibly spicy. But it's very popular in the U.S.
Yeah, it is. My Carly likes the curries, but she's very bland curry. She likes the flavors that they offer, but doesn't want the spice with you.
I just found out the other day from one of my friends that in Washington, D.C., Indian food is so popular, they have drive-through Indian places.
That's cool.
How about that?
That'd be good. I think that's so. I saw something on Shark Tank about somebody starting one of those. Yeah, that's cool. And what does the future of Serenity Knoll look like for you? What do you think if you could go out 5 or 10 years and
Well, it's going to have a lot to do with a building project that we got going on right now. I've always felt like if we had some housing on farm, people would come for a weekend event or just to come to a cooking class and spend the night as a nearby getaway. And so I'm in the process of building 5 one-bedroom cabins. And so that's going to change the whole dynamic, because I have read about and studied and have begun talks with some chefs around the country to come in and do a chef's weekend. So we would bring in a highly qualified chef to do 5 classes, 2 sit-down dinners, 2 nights at the farm for a number. I don't know what the number's going to be yet.
Got to work that out.
But it would be a higher-end experience.
Yeah, very intensive.
Very intensive and very meaningful. And to be able to be in the space, both in a professional space in the kitchen, but casually during a meal to do Q&A and talk about the things that we're talking about right now. How'd you get there? And, what inspired you and that kind of stuff. So, plus we have started a yoga program there that we do every Sunday at 11 a.m. We do a yoga brunch, and I'm very interested in building our yoga community in the same way that I did the Contra Dance community.
Yeah, I love it.
Because this old guy needs to do yoga as often as possible.
Same. I need to stay limber.
But I see us growing and developing and refining our business and hopefully settling into a good routine, offering high quality experiences. The view up there is incredible. The sunsets. I would like to do some movie nights and some sunset yogas. And we also are connected with a very talented herbalist, Leslie Vernon, who's done some wellness classes for us, which are very interesting. I'd like to do more of those kinds of things. So, the canvas is not completely empty, but it sure is room on there for us to develop new programs and encourage more people to come and visit our farm.
It sounds amazing. I'm looking forward to coming visiting it myself. How do our listeners connect with you?
Well, we are on 2 social media platforms. We're pushing 10,000 followers on Facebook.
Oh, wow.
Serenity Knoll Farm on Facebook, where we distribute all of our content for our classes and events and post pictures and give our followers a chance to critique us, both good and bad. Also on Instagram, we have a presence there. We also have a website where our visitors and guests can register for classes or look at our class schedule and see what's going on there. The podcast is a great way to get to know people in our area. And we're actually talking to the producer of this podcast about doing some video production for us.
Good.
So
yeah, they'll do a great job for you.
I mean, there's still people in the area that do not know who we are or what we do.
Right.
And so we've just now started advertising on WETS FM radio.
Yes.
And that seems to be going well.
Yeah.
So, I'm not shy from a camera or a microphone, and I just pretty much shoot from the hip when you come to our classes. If I'm involved, I try to make really meaningful connections with our guests, because we may have somebody that comes there who says, do you all do team building? Because I have a business and we would love to do an outing here. Could I bring 20 people here for a private event? Of course you can. Let me connect you up with our director. You all can plan the date and the content and the time and the cost. We would love to have you. We've had the Bank of Tennessee come on 2 or 3 occasions to do strategic planning meetings, and we fed them elegantly, and they really enjoyed being in our space.
I bet. That sounds awesome. It sounds like an amazing place. I'm super excited, and it's got to feel pretty good pulling up there and seeing what you've created and what your team and the grouping and nobody does it alone, right? You've got lots of other people around that have helped out.
We've got a great team right now.
Yeah, it sounds like the chefs are
Sheridan
awesome.
Nice, our culinary director. We're meeting new food content creators all the time. I actually have met a few at the farmers market that came to talk about food and what we grow, and said, "Oh, by the way, what's your story?" And they said, "Well, I was a chef for 30 years in such and such a place." I said, "Would you be interested in coming to teach in our classroom?" We had an interview at the Roots Vietnamese restaurant 2 weeks ago, and I met the owner while I was there.
Yes,
and he came out to look at the farm as a potential source for some of his veggies in his restaurant. And I kind of stimulated him a little bit about possibly teaching some Vietnamese classes.
That'd be cool.
So that would be very cool. So we've got a culinary director, got some talented chefs. Deborah Bird is my farm manager, and she is in charge of growing food on farm and working with our part-time employees and our volunteers. And I guess I'm the spokesperson. So I go to the market on Saturdays, which I really, really, really enjoy.
If people are wanting to get some of your produce,
Yes.
farmers market's the best place to do that.
The farmers market is a great place, especially in Jonesboro, because it's a producer-only market. I think Johnson City has way more people that come, but they're an open market, and there's not always the highest degree of authenticity there. I mean,
Gotcha.
there are people that buy on the wholesale market to resell, but we really prefer to align ourselves in the producer-only model. And so people that come to the market, at least from my perspective, are already motivated. I can tell you case history after case history where someone came to me and had been diagnosed with some chronic disease, and by virtue of changing their food habits, were able to resolve whatever the disease
The
process
ailment,
was.
Isn't
And
that crazy?
it's, well,
Well, it's not crazy.
Look,
It's really probably, yeah.
I say this all the time, food is a curative thing.
Mm-hmm.
Food is health.
We are
And
what we eat.
We have a big problem with chronic disease in this area, and I think so much of it can be attributed to the diet.
Yeah. Did you
could-
watch the show Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead, where the guy went around just blending stuff all over I think he was in Australia, but he only ate raw vegetables every day, and he lost like 60 pounds, got rid of all of his prescription medicine. It was
Well,
just awesome.
I applaud that, because I really believe that each individual has to make their own choices about what impacts their health.
Mm-hmm.
I say that no practitioner should ever touch a patient for the first time or prescribe anything for them without reviewing a 7-day food diary,
Oh, that's a good idea.
because that is so revealing. You can't eat sausage and gravy and biscuits at Hardee's every morning and be healthy.
Right.
So, I think if people in the community via visits to the farmers market, where they're connecting with the grower and talking about producing chemical-free food, because of the prevailing opinion that the mainstream food supply has a lot of toxicity to it. So if you want a really clean, wholesome diet, then support local farmers, people that have embedded dirt in their knees like
Yeah.
I do,
There you go.
and can talk about. I give out a lot of recipes at the farmers market. If somebody comes up to my booth and they see that we've got fennel there, which is a beautiful plant,
Mhm.
and they go, "Well, how do you prepare that?" So I have a rack of recipes, and I said, well, "Let me help you with that. Here are 4 suggestions. Why don't you try it?" And they go, "Okay, I think I will." So it's probably suggestion selling at its best,
Yeah.
to say, "Look, if you've never done this before and you're interested in trying it, I can help you."
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. What time is the farmer's market? What time are you typically at the farmer's market? So if our listeners wanted to connect with you.
I arrive at the farmer's market around 7:15 to set up. The market officially opens at 8 a.m. and goes till noon. But there are people there at 7:30 ready to buy.
Oh, I'm sure.
And so
Tell us, the listeners, the location
the
of the Jonesboro
location
Farmer's Market.
is behind the courthouse building, which is on Main Street,
Gotcha.
just past their restroom area.
Okay.
It's kind of tucked away in the corner back there, and it's a great place for people to gather. There's always live music there. The Jonesboro Locally Grown organization has a great information table that you can come in. And also there's a program there that I am sponsor of, which is a walk around Jonesboro, and they will give you $5 worth of tokens to spend at the market.
Oh, nice.
Now, one of the things that warms my heart and thrills me to no end is to see parents with small children giving them a lesson in commerce. So they'll come up to my booth and they will say, well, do you want some strawberries, Billy? Yes, I want. So give the gentleman 5 tokens. So we're actually going through the experience of exchanging these tokens for goods.
Yeah.
So I think that is a great lesson.
Oh, that's awesome.
For young kids to understand that, like my mother said, money doesn't grow on trees.
There you go.
You've earned this by doing this healthy walk around town.
Mm-hmm.
There's one family that I love dealing with. They've got 7 children, and they come to the market every week, and they gather up all their coins, and all of them are buying something. It's a great experience.
That's super cool. Last question. What really just gets you fired up? Like you're like, let's go.
Well, I'm a competitive guy. I've been in the professional sales world for a long, long time, and I think being able to put my energy and passion into this dream that I've created of building a business, building a brand, being a part of the local food system as a function of public health, that really excites me.
Yeah.
For an old guy like me to get up at 5:30 on Saturday morning and load up and go to the farmer's market,
you got to be passionate about it.
You got to be passionate about it. So I love what I do. I love talking to people. I love entertaining people. When people come to the farm for a class or a farm tour or any of our other non-food class events, it's like welcoming people into my home. And I love doing that because of the uniqueness of our model, the uniqueness of the place. It's just a thrill every minute to be able to connect up and engage people on our platform.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Thanks for what you're doing down in Jonesboro and starting the Contra Dance and now this farm and the cooking and making people healthier and better. I really appreciate it and applaud you, and I wish you just tons of success. And I can't wait to come see it in person.
Well, Colin, thank you for inviting me to be on your podcast, and I hope that everyone will come out and visit or try one of our classes or support our effort at the farmers market. It's a labor of love. It's not something that we'll probably get rich over, but we're very passionate about our core values and being a part of the local food system. So we appreciate everyone's support.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. Thank you, listeners, for listening, and I'm sure you enjoyed it just as much as I did. David is one cool guy, and I've enjoyed hanging out with you, so thank you so much. And if you're interested in moving to Johnson City or Jonesboro, where I grew up in Jonesboro, and meeting David in person, you can reach out and connect with me. We'd love to help you make Johnson City, the East Tennessee area, your new home, and help you sell your house there or wherever you're coming from. And if you're interested in building wealth as well through real estate, we love helping people do that. We manage a ton of property for folks, and it's just a great way to build a retirement income one day. So thank you so much. Have a great day.